Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Playform Studio Artist Showcase. I'm Jennifer Chang, and I'm the head of marketing for Playform, a no-code AI for artists. Playform is the only AI platform that enables artists to train their own AI from scratch. So today, we'll be hearing from the artists behind our first online group exhibition, A Dream Within a Dream, which is currently on view on Artsy. The exhibition features artists Anne Spalter, Carla Gannis, Patrick Lichty, Qinza Najm, Tesla Mir, and Travis LeRoy Southworth. So here's tonight's agenda. Note that we are recording this session. Each artist will be giving a 10-minute presentation on their works from the group exhibition. Following the main event, we'll be providing links to smaller breakout rooms, one per artist. If you have any questions, please save them for the breakout sessions. Also, please stay muted during the event since we're going to have a lot of people coming in and out. So to kick this off, we're going to hear from the people behind this exhibition, starting with Dr. Ahmed Elgammal, the founder and CEO of Playform. Dr. Elgammal is a pioneer in the field of AI and art. He is the founder and director of the Rutgers University's Art and Artificial Intelligence Lab. He is also behind the AI artist ACAN, which he developed. Dr. Elgammal and ICANN have been featured in the publications including the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Atlantic, as well as exhibited in galleries including Scope and the HC Contemporary. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Elgammal.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the inaugural Playform Studio exhibition, A Dream Within a Dream. This exhibition features a curated selection from an amazing group of artists who have been using Playform AI in creating their works. We'll hear all about that today. In other situations, this would have been an actual physical exhibition, but we all know it's not possible, so we try to our best to make this a memorable experience where you can get great insight from the artists themselves that even is not possible if you go to an opening. For those of you who don't know what Playform is a platform that provide artists, creatives, and designer a no-code AI to create original artworks. We are building Playform as an AI collaborative partner for artists. We aim to provide artists with a trainable, intelligent collaborator who augment and scales the artist's creativity. We build Playform with the thesis that the future of art would be increasingly collaboration between human and the machine. Playform is the only platform that allow artists to create art work using AI, training their own model from scratch without any bias from any prior data. With our in-house AI team, we work hand in hand with creatives to build AI that fit their own creative process. We are now taking this a step further by establishing Playform Studio, where we will invest in a limited number of innovative artists through computing resources. Artists get direct access to leading AI scientists and unlimited use of the platform. I will move now to our curator, Jessica Davidson, who will talk about the exhibition, and at the end of this, me or Jennifer will come back to talk more about the Playform Studio. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Ahmed, and thank you, Jennifer, and thank you to everyone who is tuning in right now from all over the world in many different time zones. As Ahmed said, my name is Jessica Davidson. I'm the founder of Davidson Art Advisory, which is a boutique consultancy, and I provide art advisory services to private collectors, and I also work with innovative art businesses, particularly in the art and technology sector. And I'm also an independent curator, and I'm someone who is very passionate about championing artists who work with new technologies and really push the boundaries of creative mediums and teach me a lot of things through this process. And I've worked with Ahmed and his team at Playform over the past couple of years, back even when the platform was in development. And I've enjoyed seeing how artists and creatives and designers have been utilizing it in very unique and innovative ways. And I was delighted to curate Playform Studio's inaugural virtual exhibition. And I chose the title, A Dream Within a Dream, as an homage to Edgar Allan Poe's poem of the same name. And this poem muses on the fragility and the fleetingness of everything. And it prompts us to question how we separate reality from illusion, which I thought was an interesting concept. And I know that when Poe wrote this back in 1849, his inquiry into what does it mean to be human likely had a totally different meaning and significance than when we consider that question in today's digital age. But fundamentally, it's a parallel existential quandary. So let's see here. As Jennifer mentioned, this show is virtual and it's online on artsy.net. There are also individual artist viewing rooms. I'll be putting up some information on those as we go through our discussion tonight that provide more context about the artists and the artworks. Everything is available for sale on Artsy. And yeah, I invite everyone after this discussion to browse through the works and have a look. Obviously, all of us are here for any questions you may have. But I would say that this exhibition, it really demonstrates the resilience of human creativity, and the styles and the aesthetics and the subject matter and even the mediums of the 36 artworks on view are as diverse and distinctive as the artists themselves. And this is really a tremendous group of artists, and I'm thrilled to have all of you with us tonight. Some of you have been working, one of you in particular, working with and pioneering digital artistic mediums at programs, who actually founded the Digital Fine Arts program at Brown University and RISD. And I'm speaking of the wonderful Anne Spalter. And I would love to have you kind of start things off for us and talk a little bit about your practice, your trajectory in the art world, which is so impressive, why you gravitated towards the digital artistic mediums, and how you've been using Playform recently in your work.
Awesome. Thank you, Jessica, and everyone for showing up to this virtual opening. It's really exciting, and the space looks really great, Jennifer. I have never been to a virtual opening that had a real 3D space, so it's exciting to see the work up on a wall. And I've been using Playform for over a year now, and it's just a really great environment for those of us who wanted to experiment with artificial intelligence but didn't want to learn how to program it, which is, I think, probably most artists who are interested in the field. So I wanted to show everybody how I've been using it and show a little bit about how the program actually works, and why I got started using it. And I'm going to use this cool piece of software that we've been given to show some slides. But it's not really slides, it's a screen share. So what you're seeing right now are the results of me training the artificial intelligence on 2 sets of images. The input images were images of my own artwork, and I chose circular ones. We can see those bigger. So I actually just took these off my own Instagram feed and put them into the program. And then the way that this project creations, there's a lot of options, different options within Playform, but the way this one works is you have one set of images that are the inspiration and one that are the influence. And basically it's trying to take the first one and make it seem like a member of the second one. So it's trying to take these circles and kind of make them look like airplanes. And I took these airplane images through a Google search off the internet as well. And unlike most other AI systems, which require hundreds or even thousands of images, you only need about 30 to train the Playform system, which makes it a lot easier to use because creating these image sets is actually very tedious and time consuming. And I got these really amazing results. So it starts out and you can see it kind of struggling. In the beginning, the images are more circular because it's just at the beginning of the process. And then as it goes through, they start to look more and more airplane-like. But it doesn't really succeed in making them look like airplanes, which for me as an artist was actually why it was successful. And it made these very strange compositions that just looked like weird UFOs. This is loading in because it's in real time. But you can see all the iterations that it went through. So I ran this over and over again, up to 250 times. And it made all these really cool shapes. But they were pretty low resolution. And I didn't know exactly what to do with them once I'd made them. I just loved the compositions and I thought, wow, I would never have created these on my own without the AI work, but I can't really print them because they're so low res. So I made pastel drawings based on them. And then actually through a residency at Mass MoCA, I had a lot of time in an actual studio space and I made oil paintings based on them. Here are some close-ups of those. And I was able to show them at the Spring Break art show in New York. And I was also able to create a large inflatable shape based on them and showed that at the Spring Break art show. Someone, if you can mute your microphone because we do hear you. And then the works that you see in this show, I'm going to show you how I made those as well. I can find that window. Hold on. Many tabs are open. Here we go. All right, so you can see these little airplanes with all these colors. And the inputs were the same airplane set as the beginning set this time. And then they are being created in the style of Hans Hofmann paintings. And I'm a huge Hans Hofmann fan and love his colors. He's an amazing color field painter. And the program just made all these really great compositions, putting together the colors in all these different ways. And I felt like each one could be an amazing painting all on its own. But then through some really terrific upscaling algorithms, the group was able to make them into images that I could actually use to print, especially if I put a bunch of them together. And those are the ones that you see in the show. And this is an example of the actual print. So you can see the colors look good, not just on the screen, but in the actual print. So that's just a brief overview of the process. And then I'll be in the breakout room if anyone has more questions or wants to see more projects and how they were made. I've also made a bunch of videos and I can show how that process worked as well in the breakout room. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anne. That was fantastic. Okay, so moving on, I am delighted to welcome Carla Gannis. And Carla is an interdisciplinary artist who produces work that considers the uncanny complications of grounded reality and virtual reality, nature and artifice, and science fiction in contemporary culture. Carla, I'd love for you to also walk us through a little bit about your process and to hear you elaborate on the genesis of your most recent series, which I find fascinating and intriguing, and it's titled, Do Androids Dream of Endangered Animals?
Okay, thank you, Jessica. I'm going to start with the question I always start with. Can everyone hear me okay? It seems like that has become, the new lead for a lot of these applications. It's so great to be here, and I am so happy to be a part of this exhibition. So thank you, Ahmed, Jessica, Jennifer, and Artsy, and all the other people involved for making this happen. And about me, Jessica gave a great introduction, but I'm an artist who actually has a BFA and MFA in painting. And then I left art school and wanted to explore new forms of art making. And here I am today in Brooklyn, New York, working with emerging technologies like extended reality, and thanks to Playform, AI. I also have the pleasure of teaching what I do to students at NYU. So, I'm now going to minimize myself because it's very important to feature this person. I first heard about Playform when Ahmed Elgammal, the founder of Playform, spoke at the NYC Creative Tech Week Conference on AI and Creativity. This was April 2019. And he introduced this amazing new platform that provided a studio for artists to experiment with and collaborate with in AI. And he also participated in this virtual fireside chat where they were talking about issues like the AI and artist creative process and what kind of new collaboration is involved when we're working with emerging intelligences, but also how is it similar to other art forms like photography and other forms of digital imaging, generative art, that require pre-curation, tweaking, and post-curation by the artist. Now, I signed up to work, oh my gosh, this is a little Drost effect. I'm gonna disappear now. I signed up to work with Playform immediately after these two talks, as these questions were exactly what I was engaging with in my own practice through my relationship with my avatar, Carla Gannis, a fictional AI, cross-platform avatar for recursive live action generative adversarial network. She has her own Instagram, by the way, and we collaborate on projects. We've even given talks together. She has her own Zoom account. So here is a screenshot of Playform back in the day, right? This was in its infancy a year and a half ago. And any of you who work with Playform now know it offers a far wider range of tools and techniques to generate images. It's been amazing to be along on that journey. Now, given that Carla Gannis, my avatar, has been a major component of my practice for the past few years, I'm going to talk about a few earlier projects with Playform first and then get to this current body of work. So I wanted to use Playform as an authentic AI that allowed me to explore the relationship with my speculative fiction identity. So my next project with Playform was to share my memories with Carla Gannis. I began by reflecting on a memory from my childhood and then gathered images, data sets from the internet that represented aspects of that memory. I uploaded the images to Playform as inspirations or influences. This is the Gannis model. Get it, Carla Gannis? But it's an actual AI model where a single or multiple training set generates new data based on certain parameters passed on by the original data. And these are rather small data sets, as Anne was talking about. And then there's my final memory. So Fiat convertible and a mother and daughter, teenage daughter, wearing matching dresses. And here's another one. Now what you're seeing here is not one single image generated by Playform. Instead, I collaged many of the generated images together and kind of wove them together to create patterns. Oops. Okay. And then this led me to my current project called Wondercammer. And it's a project that appeals to the cabinet of curiosities to explore the boundaries between grounded reality and virtual reality, nature and artifice, science and science fiction, and contemporary network culture and society, while working to build a decolonized post-human feminist future. And this is its current installation at Telematic Media Arts in San Francisco. 3 levels: grounded reality, physical reality, augmented reality, and virtual. And so you see images of the actual physical gallery and a virtual reality image of the entrance of the gallery, and then a physical cabinet of curiosity. So the shelves in this cabinet are all lined with images printed on vinyl adhesive that were generated via Playform. And so from my earlier experiments, I learned that I could stitch together the images to create higher resolution prints this way. And since the objects in the cabinet, they are actually, this is a detail of the object of the cabinets. One second. So they represent, each of these kind of shelves represent different themes. So themes such as comedy, emerging tech involving sex and comfort, decolonization, global pluralism, and here we see endangered species. That's a punk rock turtle. He's called the Green River turtle, and a bison. And again, the platforms are, the backgrounds are generated with Playform. And then several blue whale figurines, some of them painted in my studio, and again, with the background generated by Playform. In virtual reality, I had latitude to create many more cabinets, as you see here. And again, the entire kind of cabinet of curiosities, or this entire large-scale room, is lined or texture mapped with Playform. So each cabinet is lined with images generated by Playform. Here are a few additional screen grabs from the VR experience where you see various creatures from the physical cabinet now inhabiting VR. Everything you see here is created using a 3D modeling program where you can assign skins or texture maps, a kind of topography, to your objects or environments. So here the texture maps of the animals have been generated, again, should I say it, by Playform. And all of these creatures are also animated in VR and are life-size if you're actually immersed in the experience. So this brings me, and I'm now going to scale myself back up and put myself back in my holodeck. I like being in a holodeck. Am I there? Let's get me, yeah, okay. This brings me to the current series, which these are large-scale print series that I'm showing in the A Dream Within a Dream exhibition. And they're each 42 by 42 in height. And the series is entitled Do Androids Dream of Endangered Animals? And DIDE for short. Like in my other work, I'm seeking to produce dreamlike worlds that speak to very real issues of our time. I'm going to scoot myself over a little bit more. And they speak to real issues of our time, but through a visual language of liminality. I trained the AI on images of these endangered species and 3D texture map them. But I also have added backgrounds to these new prints that combine architecture from all 7 continents with flora and fauna from around the world, and stitching together via Playform human-made constructions with biological nature. A nod to the author Marge Piercy and her 1978 speculative fiction novel Woman on the Edge of Time, where she imagines a future where the nature of technology is more integrated with biological nature. And so here are a few of the other works in the Artsy exhibition. So Dada 02, Mountain Gorilla, the Bactrian Camel, and the Blue Whale. I've also trained Playform on images of water, freshwater being another endangered resource on this planet. In some ways, I feel that this series is elegiac in my attempt to teach a machine about life on the planet at this moment in time. Life that may not exist in subsequent eras, well, if we don't step up, except for perhaps in the memories and dreams of future intelligences. But let me end with a smile. It has been such a pleasure to talk with you all. And if you would like to connect with me or with Carla Gannis, let me step out of the way. Yes, those are our Instagram handles, and that is my website as well. Thank you very much.
That was fantastic, Carla. Thank you so much. Really provocative. There was so much there, and to really walk through that process and see how involved it was and is really inspiring. So thank you so much for that. I am delighted to introduce our next artist, and her name is Qinza Najm. And in addition to being one of my very dear friends, Qinza is also an international rising star. And her multifaceted artistic practice explores gendered violence and female subjectivity, but it goes so much deeper and works on so many interesting levels. Qinza, you often use motifs of bodies, and they are stretched, they're deconstructed, sometimes distorted, but always pushed beyond their limits. And embedded in your work is a very positive message, which is about our human capacity for transformation, for empathy, and for awareness. I'd love for you to walk us a little bit through your practice and the effect that training Playform's AI on your own series, which is, I think, a unique angle that you employed, how that has really pushed the boundaries of your work even further into new territories.
Great. Thank you so much, Jessica. So I'm going to ask the same question. Everybody can hear me, I'm assuming. And thank you, Playform team. Thank you, Jessica, for a wonderful introduction. Ahmed, Jennifer, Artsy, and all the guests who are here. Super excited to share this work, which I created during my 1-month residency last year. I had so many different other shows, so this was a wonderful opportunity to be able to push the work further. So I'm going to introduce myself in terms of my background, then I'm going to share a little bit more about my art practice, since I do use technology in my art, but I consider myself also an interdisciplinary artist. And then I will show you some of the previous works which led to AI, the works that you do see today in this exhibition. And then if you do have questions, please note them, and I look forward to answering some of them in more depth when we meet in the break rooms. So some of the bodies of work are different projects that I'm going to just quickly go through. So if you have any questions, please feel free to note them and I'll be happy to answer them. So my name, like Jessica introduced me, is Qinza. That's an Arabic name. It means treasure. I'm originally from Pakistan. I have been in New York for about 10 years. And my work is about this whole notion of the body. And in growing up in Pakistan, had to deal with this whole notion of body, what it means, and not just female bodies, but bodies of different colors, different ethnicities, different sexual orientation, and what does that mean? So I'm interested in the idea of body and space and how do we navigate. And right now during COVID, I feel like all of us have developed, I feel like I'm speaking for myself, a different relationship with the space. Like what space is allowed, what is not allowed, who are the people who has the space to be able to expand their bodies and have the privilege to navigate more spaces, as opposed to some of the other people who had to shrink their bodies and who don't have privileges and who don't have access. So this is the premises of this exhibition that we are going to be talking about today. So like Jessica talked about, I'm interested in construction and deconstruction, stretching, expanding, shrinking these bodies, and male, female, all the humanity is what I'm interested in, but especially female and gender violence and empowerment of the body, and how do we take it from there. So I will be showing you a 2-minute clip that is a performance which is a premises for this body of work. So let me see if I can go in the presenter mode, go in full. I had to learn all of this. Okay, hold on, let me make myself disappeared. So bear with me. And, okay, off. All right, so there you go. Great. So this was at the Queen's Museum in 2017, and these are some of the images from that exhibition. So I see this more as a shrunken body, and this was in response to the Trump's ban and in response to the countries that were banned in 2017. And then the performance became much bigger than that. And in terms of the displacement of the bodies, this is what I was responding to. So the next one is a rehearsal in my studio in New York. And do notice the positioning of the body, because this is eventually becomes the data for the AI. And then the performance became another version, and I kept developing this performance. And my main medium is paintings, but I do, as a very curious human being and as very experimenting artist, I do diverge in other mediums. So the same performance, I did a painting on the carpet. I do paint and hand paint on carpet with acrylics. And these are the paintings from the performances. This is another project that I collected bullets from New York to talk about honor killing and school shootings, and I can explain more in the break room. Similar, this is me wearing the empty bullets, 9mm from that performance. And now this is what I fed the AI, some of my own data of how the women and bodies in different cultures were occupying space. And the idea of privilege and how they're sitting and how they're occupying space. So I used, my main data was photographs of bodies and also my own paintings, and using the bodies of people in different cultures. So those were my 2 data points. These are some of the pictures from the New York subway. Now, instead of shrinking bodies, I was more interested in the spin of what happens if the bodies expand. And when I say expand, it's not just physical expansion or physical shrinking of the body. It's a metaphor that I'm using. When I say expanding, it's like space and rights and human rights and our ability to be able to get the space that we deserve in this world. So it's reaching your own full potential. And because of my background in psychology, I'm interested in the psychological aspects of things. So I have my PhD in psychology, and I really truly believe how we can reach our full potentials by expanding and stretching our own capacity and the space, the head space, the mental space, the spiritual space, and the physical space. So this was the data that was fed to AI, documenting how people are occupying space. As a woman growing up in Pakistan, I felt like I had to shrink my bodies to make other people comfortable around me, and then learning how to expand it and to be able to take back the space that I feel each one of us deserves. This is the performance, and I usually involve a lot of the community. I ask them to occupy the space they think that depicts them. And these are oil on canvas paintings using different spaces of the body and postures. And these are oil on canvases. Again, I'm less interested in the gender. So it could be a male, it could be a female. These are oil on canvas paintings that I was feeding again to the AI in Playform. And then I was interested in seeing how AI is going to decode my own style of painting and trying to copy it, and how it's going to surprise me myself in terms of how it's going to interpret it as opposed to me doing it. And that was what was super exciting for me with the Playform. And I'm going to show you some of those in a bit. You can see different construction of the body. Some of them are with zipper, some of them are oil, some of them I am showing you in a grid in different looser format, and also in oil and in a more tighter format. And these are more gestural drawings. So this is all the data, and I believe I created, most of it was hand painted and drawn, but a lot of it I also created digitally to feed like hundreds, if not thousands of these images. So the AI could recognize my own style and try to copy my own style. And here, this was part of the exhibition in, I was really happy and honored to show with Ahmed at the National Museum of China in Beijing. It was such a privilege. I had an amazing time being there. The museum was beautiful, and it was a very humbling experience to be with so many like brilliant minds, and this is part of my practice, but a lot of the people's practice is just with technology and AI. So here in this one, you can see how the body is shrunken all the way to taking over the full square and expanding and taking over more space. So this kind of shows the process of how I was able to, the AI was able to surprise me, because I don't think I could have made this myself. So that was really exciting for me. And I think to me, I used AI in a way that in the Playform, that it was able to provide its own gaze for me, because I am interested in this notion of the gaze, like cultural gaze, societal gaze, male gaze. And here I was excited to explore the Playform or AI's gaze or the GAN's gaze. And even in these forms that you see, the shapes looked like this inner part of your eye somehow. So it was really fascinating for me to observe that and to kind of think about it. And then some of these I made smaller paintings and painted over, and wanted to kind of experiment and push it further to see how technology kind of translates my work. So this is the picture from the exhibit at the National Museum of China in Beijing. In the middle is the performance that you saw in the beginning, Tabdili. Tabdili is an Urdu word which means transformation, which is what I'm interested in, this whole idea of transformation. So in the middle of the screen was the performance, so people could see how these bodies are interacting with each other, expanding, shrinking, stretching, and then you can see the process from being, shrunken and all the way the process. And I feel like sometimes I am in this state, sometimes I'm here, sometimes here, depending on where I am psychologically and physically. And this was also works created by me digitally. I do use a lot of technology in my work. In my typical process, all the mediums that you have seen, a lot of times the idea dictates the medium. So in this format, I got super excited and overly stimulated with the Playform, and I wanted to create and give a lot of data to the Playform so it can pick my own style. And I didn't mesh it with any other artist or any other, it was all my own data, which was also interesting because I was exploring who gets to say what, like, is Playform my partner, or is it a tool, is it a medium? So these were all is it a he, is it a she, is it an it? All these questions were coming to my mind. The most exciting part, like I said before, was the surprise or happy mistakes or something that I would not have immediately have come to. Those were the most exciting things for me. And this brings me to the things, the four images that you see in this exhibition, where I'm showing you how the body is kind of transforming. This is what I'm really interested in. I do believe in the human potential, the transformation, no matter how
deep in the dumps we are, we have the potential to get up and, you know, make the best out of our situation, our capacity. And this is what I'm questioning, you know, the capacity of the human potential. And this was very exciting for me. And I'm also thinking of taking it further, and I've been thinking about what else to do with these. This is another work that I'm gonna show a video of in the break rooms, which is basically, since I talk about the space, this is a project in a biennale right now where the bodies are missing, but in the video which I will show you, the bodies are here. It's a project called Don't Grow Up. It's a trap. I want to end it with this positive notion that all of us, we still have that kid alive in us. So which takes over the space, goes and enjoys and makes the best out of the situation and has this pure joy in them. And I felt like that when I was when I was dreaming with the Playform. Dream within a dream. So my dream is to have these bodies take the space that we all deserve to be at. So that's my dream within the dream. So thank you very much. And I will give the spotlight back to Jessica and Jennifer.
Thank you, Qinza. That was fantastic and incredible to see all of those dynamic visuals and to follow that trajectory of your process and how you were really experimenting with Playform, how you were, it made you more inquisitive, it made you more introspective, you were thinking about, you know, decoding your own work. But what I really loved is that really positive and hopeful message of resilience, of independence, of beauty and joy. I think that's just really inspiring and beautiful. So thank you for that. We will move on now to Patrick Lichty, who is joining us now from Abu Dhabi, where it is literally the middle of the night. So I want to extend a special thank you to Patrick for joining us tonight.
Exactly.
And by way of just a brief introduction, Patrick is a renowned media artist. He's also a writer, a curator, and a designer. Currently based in Abu Dhabi. And it's interesting, this concept that Qinza was talking about of decoding, this comes into play a little bit in your work, which I know is influenced in part by Japanese and Chinese and Persian Arabic calligraphy. It's so much more complex than that, and I'll let you sort of elaborate on it. But welcome, and I'll kick it over to you, Patrick.
All right. So thanks so much, and I really appreciate everybody having me here, and you know, I really appreciate what Qinza was talking about. And so what I'm going to talk about is kind of the context that I'm doing in regards to this idea of personal taxonomies. In other words, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use AI to map out my own mind, sort of like using my own consciousness as medium, which is kind of blowing my mind a little bit. So let's see here. Let's get started. Well, I was born in 1962. I'm from Akron, Ohio in the United States. And I've been out here in Abu Dhabi for about 5 years, and I'll be coming back to the States here in just a little bit. So, and I consider myself a technological native. My mom raised me on science fiction. My folks got me an Atari 800 in 1978 when I was a kid. And, but the thing is, my mother was an artist, and she taught me how to do all the major types of oil painting, textile, glass, watercolor. But they had me do a degree in computer engineering because everybody knows art and technology isn't practical, right? So anyway, all right, well, I proved myself. So anyway, one of my heroes is the media theorist Marshall McLuhan, who once famously said that the medium is the message. And the one thing is that I would say that media, technological media, is my voice, because I could be just as well out doing plein air watercolor as using technology. And the thing is that I always feel that my work is about using technology to wonder how it shapes the way we see our world and how it shapes our society, and basically how technology is a paintbrush for the mind. So I've been in doing this for about 30 years and been in a number of biennials, including the Whitney and the Venice and all that. So, but as I said, I started working in technological art in about 1990, and after about 10 years in engineering. And so I began, nevertheless, I saw my first plotter art and I first machine process art with a guy named Roman Barasco in 1994. And it took me about 8-9 years to really start finding my way in machine processes. About 2001, and this is actually a 10 by 10 foot piece from a show that I did called Zen for Bot at Barrister's Gallery in New Orleans, Louisiana. And these at the time were my machine processes. In other words, instead of having AI, I had these little robots that had a routine that would react to the environment in certain ways and create these patterns. And they would just keep going and going and going. And so that was about 2-3 years of work. And then I wanted to be academic. So 2.5 years, I went back and I got my graduate degree in computer art from Bowling Green State University in Ohio. All right, back out into the real world. What I did, this is a body of work from the Virginia Center of Creative Arts residency that I did in 2007 called Alien Calligraphy. So you can see here that this is all manual, and what the situation with this is that in regards to process and procedural art, I was thinking of the idea of automatic writing of the Dadaists and especially people like Arp, and also the fact that Japanese is my second language, so I have some training in Japanese calligraphy and a little bit in Persian now. And so I sat down in this residency and just basically just worked through about 40 or 50 pieces like this, and thinking about how my mind worked with these routines in my mind, and seeing how things went. But about a couple years later, I started finding my own sort of these pen plotters that basically would take other machine processes, from taking images and start generating their own pen paths and things like that. And this turned into my show in New York City called Random Internet Cats at the Yard, and that was attended by Christian Paul from the Whitney, who I used to run a magazine at the Whitney called Intelligent Agent, which was a media arts journal I did that for about 10 years. And then this is another piece, the portrait of Sheikh Zayed that I did for the Grand Mosque for the Ramadan exhibition for actually the Presidential Council in 2018. So that's actually a 2-meter tall piece of work. Let's see. So about 2017, and I need to get moving here, I started working with neural nets, and these are actually photographs from my work at Zayed University that I started working and starting doing oils from, and this is another one in 2018 for my wife, Nagina Tasabian, doesn't do her justice. And then in 2019, I met my old colleague, Carla, down in, at a symposium in Brazil, and I'd been looking to do work in GANs, and so this brought me to Playform. And at the time, I'd been doing all these calligraphy pieces on my iPad, and what I wanted to do is that I wanted to partner myself with my machine, and here's me working a bit, doing this alien calligraphy work on my iPad. And what this started turning into was a question for me. What AI does very well, it discriminates, it recognizes patterns. So what I started doing was I've made 256 of these so far, and I took it into 128 of each and threw them into the GAN, and I'm making another set actually. And so what came of this? Well, this is stage one. This is a dream within a dream in which I want to take these two sets and process them and actually use my own consciousness as medium. I want to try to get the patterns of my own creative processes. And this is my starting to morph all these together. So these are actually stages of this whole process in which I'm actually trying to get the inside stuff of what's happening in my mind as pattern and use that as the actual theme for the work. So in other words, this is almost sort of like using consciousness as medium. And that in itself, I think, is what is really revolutionary about using AI. I think it's the matter of taking your work and using what it does really well and literally trying to take as stuff for your own work the pattern of the processes of your own mind and pull those out by averaging things out and then putting that on the canvas or the plane and using that as your form of expression. So what I'm actually trying to do is I'm actually trying to pull out the processes of my own mind as the pattern of my work. So thanks so much for having me, and I give the floor back to my esteemed colleagues. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Patrick. That was great. Really appreciate it. And yeah, very, very complex, beautiful. Something that, you know, is kind of a thread throughout all of this. You know, it's one thing to look at an image on a virtual wall or in an actual gallery, and you're accosted with it. It has a visual impact. But then when you really start to peel back these layers, and that's why I love hearing from the artists themselves, there's so much more that goes into the creation of these works. And every artist is just, your processes, your practices, they're so thoughtful, they're so nuanced. I could listen to you guys talk all day, and I love doing that most of the time. But because we got to keep things going, we'll continue. So the next artist that I am delighted to introduce is Travis LeRoy Southworth.
Hello.
Hi, Travis. And Travis is a visual artist and image correction specialist whose artwork is intrinsically connected to image manipulation in the beauty industry. And it involves extracting bits of cultural identities from portraits as a way to explore contemporary culture's fascination with its own dematerialization. And Travis, I'd love to hear you kind of interpret what I just said about your work, which I think goes so much deeper than that. But I think it's very interesting that you are coming from the beauty industry, these ideas of superficiality, and love to hear a bit more about your practice and also how you used a previous series like Qinza did to train AI on your own work to create these hauntingly provocative images for this show, which I really love and look forward to hearing you talk a little bit more about them.
Great. Thank you for everyone coming to this exhibition and artist talk tonight. Thank you, Jessica, for that amazing introduction, and Ahmed and Jennifer from Playform and all the other artists. My name is Travis LeRoy Southworth, and I'm just going to start with an earlier body of work here called Detouched. And as Jessica mentioned, much of my work looks at like altered bodies on the screen. And by day, I work as an image production specialist in the beauty industry. And that's really profoundly informed my artistic practice. And I really look at image manipulation and computerized labor and self-perception. So I'm going to go to full screen here. This is an early piece called I Retouch Myself. And while working, I became really interested in all these like tiny things that I have to remove from people's faces, like little moles and blemishes and stray hairs that I would actually just have to obliterate to sort of create this ideal portrait. And I wondered what would these faces look like if I just erased everything else and only leave these little things that sort of make us unique from everyone else. So that's where this sort of series started. This is actually a piece that I was commissioned from the Drawing Center here in New York City for an exhibition called Day Job, where they actually looked at artists' day jobs as an influence in their practice. For the exhibition, I actually photographed the entire staff of the Drawing Center and retouched all their imperfections and overlaid all their portraits onto a single piece. So this is from 2010. So much of these pieces sort of began as photographs, but I started to give myself more freedom and they became more like drawings as I like moved little like pieces around. This is actually an installation at Mixed Screens Gallery, and this is a window installation here. It's backlit, and I photographed it's like 25 people I had met since moving to New York City back in 2010, and these are all their sort of like imperfections, and I started creating these like galaxies of cultural detritus. This is a detail of that piece here. These are some stray hairs. I'm just really starting to create more of like these like drawings and like moving things around. And I want to skip ahead to the series because it's sort of like a precursor to the AI work I've been doing called the continuous work drawings. And I was really wanting to sort of find a way I could make art at work. Not like secretly draw when I was supposed to be working, but can I be making drawings as I'm retouching images? So I found this computer software that could actually just track my cursor as I was editing an image. And at the time I was doing very fast paced, like e-commerce, you only have like 5 minutes for each image. And I wanted to see if, you know, this single pixel line that would maybe create some sort of interesting drawing as I was just feverishly working and on these bodies on the screen. And they actually sort of came out as these weird sort of like appendages and like these scribbles and almost turned into like these sort of like pseudo blind contour drawings. And I made about 1,500 drawings in a span of like 6 months. And I was also not looking at the drawings as I was making them. So they're pretty much all blind in a way. So each one of these pieces would be the exact time it took to finish an image, and all the information is on like the back of each piece. So it would be like continuous work drawing 342, 5 minutes and 30 seconds on this date and this time. So in a way I was sort of like doubling my time, like looking at digital methods of production as a way of creation and playing with the figure along with my own. Like I use computer software to create work because in a way it sort of eliminates traces of my hand, and the process itself iterates the disappearance of the physical body on and off the screen. So this brings me to my most recent body of work, Color Balance, that I was using to train the Playform AI. This is an installation shot from a solo exhibition, and this year it was in January in Brooklyn at Undercurrent. This show was called I Am a Portrait. So many of these pieces are printed on fabric like silk, canvas, and they really sort of like have a likeness to like a skin quality to them. I started to look at more than just like imperfections, sort of like the color adjustments that I would apply to the body, and those sort of become like the base layer for a painting that I'm creating in Photoshop. This piece here is called Blurry Mistake, #1. And a lot of the titles actually come from discussions in the industry about how to make a better image. So I sort of like collect these as I'm working. This one's called Study for a Portrait. This is a diptych. The one on the left is happiness is just a spray away. The one on the right is where's your decency? This is called Hothead. This is what is the title of this piece? I can't remember. This one's on the left, No Cookie Cutter, #2, and the one on the right is Not Very Pretty. So I'm really just creating all of these in Photoshop, just using like this like soft, sort of like seductive color, but in a way they sort of have like these weird in-between moments between like a figure or like abstraction, and I really wanted to like blend that together and play with that. So that brings me to the body of work where there's a couple pieces in this exhibition called New Beginnings, Old Endings, Secret Secreting. So I was thinking about my previous body of work, the continuous work drawings using software to generate an image, and I met Ahmed a couple times in 2019 at the various New York City tech conferences, and also at the Christie's AI conference where he was telling me about the Playform software. So I started playing with that, I think it was like mid last year, and I was wanting to take my previous body of work, Color Balance, and see if I can train it to make another body of work in a way. So I started inputting various portraits that I would find online along with my own work. So this piece is called Keeping Your Distance. This one is Toothy. So I was really thinking about how a lot of the images from GANs or neural networks, they're referred to as dreams in a way in the industry, and how AI in itself, there are so many hopes and fears that it'll either save us from our mundane jobs or it will create this revolution of machines that will kill us all. And I thought about my own sort of hopes and fears, real ones, imagined, big ones, small ones, wholesome and vapid, and I started to pair those with these images. So these specifically aren't created directly from the GAN. I, again, take an image that I get from the machine here. On the left is the training output of an image, and on the right is a final work. So I'm still sort of like, it's a collaboration in a way as I'm going back and forth. Yeah, I think that's about the time right there, so I'll go ahead and stop.
That was fantastic. That was fantastic. Thank you so much, Travis. Really beautiful. work and great explanation. And yeah, so the final artist in this group, her name is Tesla Mir, and unfortunately she is not able to join us tonight, but you can see a picture of her working behind me. And Tesla is an emerging multimedia artist and designer. And she uses a variety of techniques and technologies and materials, and often these very candy color-like palettes to create surreal and dreamlike worlds. And these are worlds that are touched by imagination and science and technology, and in her mind, ways that assist rather than detract from humankind. So using Playform, she developed this latest series, these sort of ethereal tondos, the grouping of which you can see behind me, and they represent portals of optimism, small windows that beckon us to dream of the realm of possibility. And I will do my best to speak a little bit about her, her process and practice. I do know that her original works, of which you're seeing one here, she uses a variety of mediums, and this is the basis of her, the pieces that you're seeing in this show. So she creates original artworks using sumi ink, acrylic, charcoals, oil pastels, and occasionally handmade vinyl graphics and found objects. And these serve as the basis for the digital prints, which she scans and photographs in many layers. She often works on multiple paintings at one time, and each of them have over 40 different layers. So they can take about 6 months to complete as they come together piece by piece. And I'd like to read a quote that she wrote that I think really beautifully conveys the message she wants us to glean when we look at her work. And she says, "There's a lot of sadness, despair, and disconnection that we as humanity are feeling. We are surrounded with amazing technology that has the ability to unite and bring us together, yet we often feel less and less in touch with life. I see these things, I feel them, I live them, but I also see tiny sparks of unquenchable life, selfless acts of kindness, the bright morning sun renewed each day, the stars, pinpricks of light, reminding us to look up and to never stop dreaming and exploring this vast and beautiful universe." So on that note, I would once again like to thank all of the artists for participating in this live discussion. It's been incredible, and for all of your brilliant work. And to everyone who is logged in and watching the discussion tonight, thank you all for being part of this. I would love to kick things back over to Jennifer to make some closing remarks, but it's really been a pleasure, and thank you to everyone.
All right, back to me, guys. Thanks, Jessica. So I hope everyone enjoyed the artist presentations. You know, unfortunately, there has been no applause since you're all muted, so I'm just going to clap by myself. Thank you guys. You guys did an amazing job. In addition to celebrating the works created by this talented group of artists, the purpose of this event was to introduce Playform Studio. So Playform Studio is a new exclusive program that we've introduced to collaborate and support the artists on our platform. Artists selected for Playform Studio will get unlimited computing resources on Playform, including unlimited credits to train your own AI models. Also, Playform Studio artists will be featured in our Artsy exhibitions and events like this. And in the future, we plan to showcase our studio artists in in-person gallery exhibitions as well. The application is now available on our website. This is the page that you need to get to. It is playform.io/studio. If you have any additional questions about the program, you can also email us at playform@artrendex.com. We look forward to your applications. So now we're going to get into the breakout portion of the event. So for the rest of the hour until 10 o'clock New York time, each of the artists that you've heard from tonight is going to be hosting their own Zoom room. I just shared all of the links to each of the rooms in the Zoom chat for each of the 5 artists. And so you'll see in the Zoom chat that there's links to 4 different rooms. And if you want to stay and talk to Ann Spalter, you'll stay in this room. So yeah, feel free to jump around through the different rooms and pop into the different conversations. Note that I've also sent out the links to all the rooms in the Eventbrite reminder email that went out. And so you can always go back into your email and get the links to pop into another room if you'd like. So I'd like to thank you all for attending. Thank you guys so much. This has been a wonderful night, and we all look forward to seeing your works on Playform. Thank you.